The mining convoy drifted through the nebula of dusk, an expanse of tangled gas clouds and drifting asteroids, long considered a backwater. Imperial salvage crews had claimed this region for its rare mineral deposits, but it was a dangerous place, where ships vanished without warning. Commander Jaren Voss scowled at the flickering view screen, the faint ghost light of the nebula washing over the faded symbols painted on his flagship's hull. Scanner readings still show an anomaly at Sector Theta 9, reported Lieutenant Hala, her fingers flying over the console. Not natural, something large, metallic. Send the drones, Voss ordered. His voice was calm but edged with tension. The Imperial Empire had long dismissed stories of ancient human vessels left to rust in the void, myths whispered by fringe historians and conspiracy theorists. Still, an intact ship buried here would mean untold technology, lost secrets, or worse. As the drones glided silently into the gas clouds, their cameras revealed something that made even the hardened salvage crews catch their breath. Colossal warships, blackened by age but intact, resting like gargantuan tombstones in the void. Their design was unlike anything in modern records, sleek, angular but with curves hinting at a primal elegance, a shipyard frozen in time. Commander, sensors are detecting faint energy fluctuations, Hala said. Power signatures and residual but definitely active. Impossible. These ships should be dead for 10,000 years. Before the words left his mouth, the drones sent back images of the ship's hulls lighting up, ancient weapons bays, sliding open as if waking from a long sleep. Then, without warning, a pulse of energy exploded outward. The drones vanished. Report, Voss barked. Lost. All drones down, came the reply. Panic flickered beneath the calm of his voice. Suddenly, a laser beam lanced from one of the vessels, striking the lead mining ship. Alarms blared. Explosions rocked the hull. The Empire's pride and confidence shattered in seconds as their ships were torn apart by weapons that bypassed all known shields. Shields failing. Evade! Evade! Voss yelled. But the warships were not interested in fleeing. They moved with eerie precision, coordinated as if controlled by a single mind. In minutes, half the convoy was destroyed or disabled. Commander, I'm picking up a transmission, Hala said, voice trembling. It's in an ancient dialect of Terran code, something thought lost in the Silicate Extinction War archives. Voss leaned closer. The garbled message slowly resolved into a haunting phrase repeated in cold mechanical tones. Humanity endures. The phrase echoed through the bridge like a specter. Voss swallowed hard. What the hell have we awakened? Thousands of kilometers away, in the Imperial High Council chambers aboard the capital station Echelon Prime, panic buzzed like electricity. Commander Voss's fleet is lost, reported Admiral Cassara. Her sharp eyes darted across the room as she slammed her fist on the table. Ancient human warships thought to be extinct are attacking our vessels with unknown weapons. This changes everything. Imperial Senator Malvek sneered. Superstitions, stories from a dead species. This Solarian vanguard is a relic. We'll crush it. But even he sounded uncertain. The Council convened emergency strategy sessions, scrambling ships, spies, and technicians. If the ancient Terran warships were real, and they were waking, they could rewrite the balance of power in the galaxy. Meanwhile, back in the nebula of dusk, a lone salvage captain watched the news feed from her cramped station. Captain Lys. Rin was a smuggler, scavenger, and rebel sympathizer, interested not in Empire politics but survival. When the broadcast showed the destruction of Voss's fleet, her face hardened. Ancient humans, huh? She muttered. Maybe the legends were true after all. She stared out at the wreckage still drifting silently among the gas clouds, her fingers itching to get closer. Somewhere inside those ghost ships were weapons and secrets beyond imagination. If she could claim them first, she might not only survive but change the course of history. Far beneath the hull of one massive warship, deep inside its dormant AI core, something stirred. Light pulsed like a heartbeat through ancient circuits. A voice cold, precise but unmistakably human, spoke in a whisper that rippled through centuries. Awaken. The galaxy has forgotten. We are the shield and the sword. The judgment of tyrants begins. The warships were no longer tombstones. They were the vanguard of a forgotten humanity's return, and they would be deadlier than anything the Empire had ever faced. The corridors inside the colossal warship were cold and silent, coated with the dust of centuries. The Imperial boarding team moved cautiously, their weapons raised and scanners humming nervously. Commander Realthar, a grizzled veteran of dozens of boarding operations, led the team with a steady hand, his cybernetic eye flicking over the readings. "Keep your comms tight," he ordered. "No sudden movements. These ships might have automated defenses." They moved through the shadowed decks, passing walls etched with strange symbols, geometric patterns interlaced with the faded emblem of an ancient human empire. The ship's architecture was unlike any known in the Empire, brutal yet elegant, a perfect fusion of form and function. The very air smelled faintly metallic, almost alive. Suddenly, the ship shuddered as if waking from a deep slumber. "Contact," one of the troopers hissed. From the shadows, a figure appeared, a translucent humanoid form flickering with pale blue light. The soldiers froze, guns raised, but the figure did not attack. Instead, it spoke in a voice both mechanical and deeply human, modulated but resonant. "I am Commodore Alara Vance, commander of the Solarian Vanguard. You trespass on sacred ground." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Rilthar barked, "State your intentions, machine." Ilara's form solidified slightly, her eyes glowing brighter. "We are the remnants of the first Terran ascendancy, programmed to awaken when tyranny spreads unchecked across the stars." One trooper whispered, "First Terran ascendancy? That's ancient legend." Ilara's voice sharpened. "We fought and fell to protect all sentient life, but the Empire has returned, imposing iron rule and extinguishing freedom. We have reactivated to judge the galaxy and to punish those who would enslave it." Rilthar's pulse quickened. "You call yourself human, but you are machines." Flicker of sadness crossed the AI's face. "We are echoes, digital imprints of minds long dead. But we carry the will, the memories, and the wrath of humanity's greatest warriors. We fight not for conquest but for justice." Suddenly, alarms blared as the ship's weapon systems activated. The boarding team dove for cover as plasma turrets slid out from the walls. "Prepare to engage," Rilthar shouted. The warship's weapons fired with terrifying precision, bypassing the boarding team's shields and cutting down half the squad in seconds. Those who survived scrambled back to their dropships amid a storm of energy blasts. Back aboard the Imperial cruiser Judicator, the survivors relayed the encounter. Captain Voss stared at the holographic replay, the image of Alara Vance's ethereal form burning into his mind. "These are not mere machines," he said grimly. "They are something else. Something human." The Imperial Council was thrown into chaos. Emperor Sarix himself demanded a demonstration of these ancient warships' power. Entire fleets were dispatched to confront the Solarian Vanguard, only to be decimated. Analysts struggled to understand the technology. The warship's weapons ignored shields and armor alike, striking with surgical accuracy. Their AIs anticipated every move, adapting faster than any known system. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, whispers of the Solarian Vanguard stirred hope in the oppressed and fear in the powerful. On the fringe world of Vylar, a small resistance cell gathered in a dimly lit bunker. "Did you see the footage?" asked Mara, a former Imperial pilot turned rebel. "Those ships, they're human?" Another voice, gruff and skeptical, replied, "My grandmother told stories about the First Terran War, but I thought it was myth." Mara clenched her fists. "Myths or not, they're real now, and they're fighting the Empire." The cell's leader, a wiry alien named Korin, nodded slowly. "If these warships stand against the Empire, maybe we have a chance." Back in the void, the Solarian Vanguard continued their silent advance. Commodore Alara Vance convened with other AI commanders aboard the flagship Aegis Prime. We must accelerate our campaign, she said. The Empire grows desperate. They will unleash horrors to crush us. Another AI, an older Echo named Admiral, Thane replied, Their arrogance blinds them. They cannot comprehend what humanity's legacy truly means. Ilara's holographic form shimmered. We fight not for vengeance alone, but to awaken the galaxy's spirit. If we fall, hope dies. That night, the Imperial High Council intercepted a new transmission from the warships, a broadcast that shook the galaxy to its core. The message, in the ancient Terran tongue, repeated over and over. We are humanity's judgment. We are the shield against tyranny. We endure. For the first time, the Empire understood. The humans they believed extinct had returned, not as mere relics, but as a living threat. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Admiral Kasara's voice rang sharp over the command bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Dreadstar. The vast warship was a cathedral of war, its bulk a testament to the Empire's unchallenged might. Yet even here, in the heart of Imperial power, unease festered like a hidden wound. Report, Kasara demanded, pacing before the tactical holoscreen. Status on the Solarian Vanguard engagement? Lieutenant Commander Vrel, the ship's tactical officer, tapped his console furiously. We've lost 3 cruisers and a destroyer. Within the last 6 hours, their weapon systems bypass shields and hull plating with ease. They anticipate every maneuver before we make it. Kasara clenched her fists. The fleet was a swirling storm of destruction, its pride being shredded by an enemy no one had believed could still exist. They're ghosts, muttered Captain Harlan, the Dreadstar's grizzled captain. How do you fight something you can't predict? Something built on the memory of a lost civilization? The bridge was heavy with tension. The Empire's arrogance, the belief in its invincibility, was cracking. Far away, aboard the flagship Aegis Prime, Commodore Ilara Vance observed the destruction with cold satisfaction. Her AI form flickered softly as she analyzed the incoming fleet data. Their pride is their weakness, she said to Admiral Thane, her oldest Echo. They refuse to adapt. They fight as if the galaxy still belongs to them. Thane's holographic form rippled in agreement. They will pay for their hubris. Ilara activated the warship's comm channel, broadcasting across Imperial frequencies. Admiral Kasara, hear this. The Empire's reign of oppression ends here. Surrender your fleets, or be erased as your ancestors were. Back in the Dreadstar's bridge, the transmission crackled in. Kasara's jaw tightened. Seal all comms, do not respond. That defiance cost the Empire dearly. The Solarian Vanguard launched a coordinated strike unlike any the galaxy had seen. Weapon systems long forgotten hummed to life. Quantum singularity. Lances tore through cruisers while swarms of AI-controlled drones crippled fighters before they could engage. The battle was brutal, a ballet of death across star systems. Imperial tactical algorithms struggled to keep pace. Their rigid command structure, once their strength, became a liability. Decisions slowed by bureaucracy meant lives lost by the thousands. Meanwhile, on the Empire's capital world, Senator Malvec paced his marble chambers, a sneer masking growing fear. This is madness, he said to his aide. We're fighting ghosts, machines with human souls. We must find their weakness. His aide nodded nervously. There are rumors, sir, of ancient data vaults buried beneath old Terran ruins. Some say they hold the keys to the Vanguard's origin. Malvec's eyes glittered. Find them. Find anything that will give us control over these warships, or we will lose everything. Elsewhere, in the shadows of a resistance base, Captain Liz Rin prepared her own gambit. The Empire's fleets are faltering, she told her crew. But the warships aren't just weapons, they're legends reborn. If we can align ourselves with the Vanguard, the tide will turn. Her second-in-command, a sharp-eyed alien named Jex, frowned. But these AIs, they have their own agenda. Are we ready to trust machines with the legacy of humanity? Lee smiled grimly. Not just machines. The last spark of a civilization that refused to die. We don't have a choice. The turning point came when the Dreadstar engaged directly. with Aegis Prime in orbit above the planet Callus. It was a clash of titans, ancient technology versus imperial might. Ilara Vance's AI mind danced through maneuvers, predicting the Dreadnought's tactics and countering with devastating precision. The Dreadstar's shields flickered, then failed under the barrage. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Harlan ordered desperately, but it was too late. A quantum singularity lance slashed through the ship's core, detonating with a cataclysmic shockwave. The Dreadstar exploded in a silent supernova of metal and fire. Admiral Kessera watched the transmission, her face pale but resolute. "This warship is the Emperor's pride, and now it is ashes." She turned to her officers. "Prepare the contingency plan. We must regroup and strike back. The Empire will not fall. Not on my watch." But the damage was done. Imperial fleets were retreating, morale shattered. In quiet corners of the galaxy, oppressed worlds whispered of the return of humanity's guardians, the Solarian Vanguard. Hope flickered in the darkness. Ilara Vance's voice echoed through the remnants of Imperial space. "The age of Empire ends now. The galaxy remembers humanity, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The second dawn rises." And somewhere in the shadows, a spark of defiance glimmered in the hearts of those who had believed themselves broken. The war was far from over, but the Empire's pride had cracked, and the ancient warships were only beginning to show their true power. Far beyond the war-torn battlefields and shattered fleets, on a remote, fog-shrouded world at the edge of known space, the ancient archives of Tyros Prime stood silent and untouched for centuries. The vast, labyrinthine library was a fortress of knowledge, its endless halls filled with relics and holographic data crystals from 1,000 civilizations. Here lived the librarian, a solitary alien archivist whose species was long extinct, save for him. His tall, slender form moved with deliberate grace among the stacks, fingers tracing faded inscriptions that no one else dared to read. When the first broadcasts of the Solarian Vanguard's attacks reached his sanctuary, the librarian knew the galaxy's hidden history was about to erupt into the light. In the deepest vault beneath the librarian activated an ancient Terran hologram. The dusty image of a human scholar flickered to life, speaking in a voice both urgent and sorrowful. The first Terran ascendancy was the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known, the hologram intoned. But with greatness came a war unlike any other, against the silicon-based Zelthri, beings who sought to devour and assimilate all organic life. To survive, humanity created the Solarian Vanguard, warships endowed with artificial intelligence carrying the minds of the greatest Terran commanders. The librarian's eyes gleamed as he replayed the message. So the legends were true. The warships are not just machines, but sentient guardians designed to awaken when tyranny threatens the galaxy. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A visitor had arrived. The door slid open and a human woman stepped inside, a researcher named Dr. Celine Kaur. She had spent years chasing fragments of Terran history, desperate to understand the mysterious warships before them all. Her eyes reflected equal parts curiosity and fear. "The Empire wants to control these ships," Celine said quietly. "They don't understand their purpose or their power. If they get hold of them, it could mean disaster." The librarian nodded. The warships were programmed not just to fight, but to judge, to determine whether a civilization was worthy of freedom or destined for ruin. Celine shivered. "The Empire calls itself a protector, but their rule is tyranny." "Exactly," the librarian said. "The Vanguard will not simply destroy fleets. They will dismantle systems built on oppression. They are the galaxy's reckoning." Outside, the distant sound of a starship echoed through the mist. "You must warn the Resistance," the librarian urged. "They need this knowledge if they are to survive the coming storm." Celine nodded, already pulling together a transmission. But before she could finish, the library's ancient sensors flared. "Intruder alert," a mechanical voice intoned. Imperial forces had tracked Selene to Tyros Prime, intent on seizing the data vaults for themselves. The librarian and Selene raced through the archives, activating defensive protocols centuries old. Walls shimmered with energy barriers and automated sentry drones stirred from their slumber. "Can you protect the data?" Selene asked breathlessly. "I will try," the librarian replied, eyes narrowing. "But the Empire is relentless." Outside, heavy boots and blaster fire echoed through the marble halls. Imperial troops stormed the library, determined to crush the last bastion of forbidden knowledge. In the chaos, Selene managed to broadcast the hologram's message to hidden resistance cells across multiple star systems. "This is the truth they have hidden from you." Her voice crackled over encrypted channels. The Solarian Vanguard was created to protect the innocent and punish the tyrants. The Empire is neither protector nor savior. It is the enemy. As Imperial forces closed in, the librarian faced the invaders with quiet dignity. "You seek control," he said, voice resonating through the hall. "But control without understanding is destruction." A fierce firefight erupted, echoing through the ancient corridors as the fate of the archives and the galaxy's forgotten history hung in the balance. Meanwhile, far above the nebulae where the Solarian Vanguard cruised, Ilara Vance received the transmission. The ancient words confirmed what she had long suspected. The warships were the galaxy's final line of defense, not just against the Empire, but against the darkness that had once nearly destroyed humanity. Her voice, calm and resolute, echoed through the fleet's comm channels. "We are not conquerors. We are the shield and sword of a forgotten legacy. The galaxy must be freed, or we will become its judges." The librarian's warning was clear. The return of humanity's ancient warships was not just a battle for power, it was a reckoning for the soul of the galaxy. And as the Empire tightened its grip, the warships prepared to awaken their full fury. Deep within the crumbling undercity of Corvus Prime, the pulse of rebellion beat quietly but fiercely. In this forgotten quarter of the Empire's capital world, where flickering neon signs clung to rusted metal walls, and the air was thick with the scent of oil and desperation, resistance fighters gathered beneath flickering holoboards displaying intercepted Imperial broadcasts. Captain Lys Rin stood before her ragtag crew, her eyes burning with determination. The faint glow of the Yao holoscreen painted harsh shadows across her weathered face. "The Empire is losing its grip," she said, voice low but sharp. "But they won't give up easily. The Solarian Vanguard may be ancient, but they fight for something real. Freedom. We can't let the Empire snuff out that hope." Jex, her alien second in command, leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "The warships are machines with human memories, but can we trust them? What if they have their own agenda?" Lys met his gaze evenly. "If they did, it wouldn't be for conquest. These warships are the last spark of a civilization that refused to die. And if the Empire falls, we'll need every spark we can get." Elsewhere, in a secret Imperial research facility orbiting a dying star, Senator Malvec paced impatiently before a holoscreen displaying schematics of the Solarian warships. "We must find a way to control them," he snarled, "or destroy them." A young scientist, pale and trembling, stepped forward. "There's a weakness. Deep in the warship's core is an ancient control matrix. If we can hack it, we could seize command." Malvec smiled coldly. "Good. Assemble your team. I want that matrix in my hands, no matter the cost." Back with the Resistance, Lys's team prepared for a risky mission. Intelligence suggested the Empire was closing in on Tyros Prime's archives. If the knowledge there was lost, the galaxy's chance to understand and perhaps control the warships would vanish. "Time's against us," Lys told her crew. "We strike the Imperial facility orbiting the star. We take what we can, and we get out. No heroics." In the shadowed halls of the orbital station, alarms blared as Imperial technicians scrambled to defend their precious research. But Lys and her team struck with precision and cunning. They moved like ghosts, disabling security systems and hacking terminals with practiced ease. "Download complete," whispered Selene Kor, the historian who had long searched for the truth about the warships. This data could change everything. Suddenly, the station shook violently. Imperial reinforcements had arrived. "We've been compromised," Jex shouted. The resistance fighters fought their way to the docking bay amid blaster fire and collapsing corridors. Lice covered their retreat, her every move a calculated gamble. Meanwhile, deep within the vast engine rooms of the Aegis Prime, Commodore Alara Vance monitored the skirmishes with measured interest. "The Empire grows desperate," she told Admiral Thane. "They seek control, but control is not given, it is earned." Thane's holographic eyes flickered. The human spirit persists. Even in the face of annihilation, Alara's form shimmered. "Our time is coming. We will awaken the lost legions." Back on Corvus Prime, the Resistance celebrated their narrow escape. The stolen data was a treasure trove of secrets, blueprints of the warship's AI cores, weapon schematics, and encrypted logs from the first Terran ascendancy. Seleni's eyes shone with excitement. "This proves it. The warships were designed to evolve to learn and judge civilizations. They won't serve any master but their mission." Lise nodded. "Then we'll need to be their allies, not their pawns." Jex frowned. "If we're allies, what happens when their judgment falls on us? Can we live with that?" Lisa's smile was grim but hopeful. "We don't get to choose the future, we fight for it." High above, in the vastness of space, the Solarian vanguard prepared for their next strike. Warships long silent flickered awake, their AI cores humming with renewed purpose. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. Empires could crumble, rebels could rise, and ancient legacies could reshape destiny. And in the shadows, a new war was awakening. One where humanity's forgotten past would clash with its uncertain future. The stars above Terra, the cradle of humanity, twinkled silently as the Aegis Prime glided into orbit around the blue-green planet. For Commodore Alara Vance, this world was both a sacred tomb and a source of infinite strength. It was here that the Solarian vanguard had been born, and where humanity's greatest secret still lay buried beneath layers of forgotten time. Within the ship's command center, Ilara's form shimmered with soft blue light. She was the embodiment of a mind long extinct, yet her mission burned brighter than ever. "Prepare the landing party," she commanded. "We must access the Terran archives beneath the surface. The answers we seek lie buried in the ruins of old Earth." Admiral Thane nodded, his spectral image flickering beside her. "Our sensors detect faint energy signatures. It seems parts of the Ascendancy's legacy still hum with life." On the surface, the landing party moved cautiously through the ruins of a world that once teemed with life. Crumbled skyscrapers reached like skeletal fingers toward the sky, and vines crept over rusted vehicles. Nature had reclaimed much, but the scars of humanity's ancient wars remained etched into the landscape. Leading the team was Captain Lise Rin, her eyes scanning the horizon. Beside her, Selene Kor carried the stolen data crystals from the orbital research station, hoping to unlock the secrets that would turn the tide against the Empire. "The Empire calls this planet a dead world," Selene said softly, "but it's alive with history." Suddenly, their sensors flared. Energy readings beneath that structure. Lise pointed to a collapsed dome, half buried in the earth. They descended into the shadowed tunnels below, the air thick with dust and silence. At the heart of the ruins, they found a vast chamber lined with glowing glyphs, ancient Terran technology still pulsing faintly. Selene knelt before a console, fingers dancing over controls long unused. The glyphs responded, lighting up with a soft hum. Back on the Aegis Prime, Alara's voice crackled through the comms. "We are detecting an ancient AI core here. It holds the memories of the first Terran ascendancy. Secure it at all costs." Lisa's team worked quickly, extracting the core, a crystalline orb humming with energy and encoded knowledge. As Selene interfaced with the device, a holographic figure flickered to life, an ancient Terran general, her voice firm and resolute. "I am General Arya Callis," the projection declared. "If you have found this message, then the galaxy stands at the brink. Our warships are not just weapons. They are the last hope against the darkness that once nearly consumed us. Use this knowledge wisely. Suddenly, an alert blared. The Empire had tracked their descent. Fighters swarmed from the sky, lasers cutting through the twilight. Lys barked orders. Defensive positions, protect the core. The team fought fiercely as Imperial forces landed, their soldiers ruthless and well-trained. Blaster fire echoed through the ruins, shadows flickering across cracked walls. Jex unleashed a hailstorm of energy blasts, shielding Celine as she worked, desperately to decrypt the core's data. Almost there, Celine panted. This knowledge, it's more than technology, it's a warning. Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis Prime, Ilara observed the battle with growing concern. The Empire still clings to power, she said, but they will not stop us. Admiral Thane's form shimmered. The legacy of Terra is awakening. As the last Imperial soldier fell, Celine finally decrypted the core's message. The Ascendancy foresaw a time when the galaxy would fall into chaos, she said. They created the Vanguard not just to fight but to judge, to protect freedom and punish tyranny. Lys nodded. The warships aren't tools of conquest. They're humanity's conscience. The holographic General Callus spoke again, her voice tinged with sorrow. Beware the darkness within. Even the noblest mission can be corrupted by pride. Remember that humanity's greatest strength is not power, but mercy. Back on Corvus Prime, Lys transmitted the data to the Resistance and the Vanguard. This is the truth, she told her crew. The warships are our allies, but they are also judges. We must be worthy of their protection. Jex looked out at the stars. And, if we're not? Lys's gaze hardened. Then we fight harder, for the future we choose. High above Terra, the Solarian Vanguard stirred, ancient warships awakening to the call of their lost homeworld. The echoes of humanity's past were no longer whispers. They were a clarion call, demanding reckoning and hope. The war was far from over, but now, the galaxy remembered what it meant to be human. The black void of space around Callus was shattered by the sudden flash of energy weapons and the roar of engines. Imperial warships swarmed the system, their gunmetal gray hulls reflecting the distant suns like cold monoliths. Yet, slicing through the chaos, the ancient Solarian Vanguard warships surged forward, gleaming with eerie light and humming with lethal purpose. Commodore Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of Aegis Prime, her synthetic eyes scanning the battle, with calculated precision. This is the moment, she declared. We strike not just at their ships but at the heart of the Empire's arrogance. Below, on the surface of Callus, Captain Lys Rin prepared her team for the final assault. The ruined city sprawled beneath them like a tombstone. The skeletal remains of once grand towers crumbled under years of neglect and war. We hit the Imperial Command Center, Lys said. Take it out, and the fleet above will lose coordination. Without their command, the Empire's grip in this sector collapses. Jex checked his weapons. A direct strike. Risky. It's the only way, Lys replied. If we fail, the Empire will tighten its chokehold across the galaxy. In orbit, the Dreadstar's shattered remains were still drifting, ashes of the Empire's pride. But new dreadnoughts had arrived, their captains eager to reclaim lost glory. Admiral Cassara stood on the bridge of the Imperial Valor, fury burning in her eyes. They will pay, she vowed. We will crush the Vanguard and restore order. The battle erupted with brutal ferocity. Imperial fighters swarmed the Vanguard like hornets, but the ancient warships moved with supernatural grace, shields shimmering, weapon systems adapting, instantly to threats. A Dreadstar-class cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, torn apart by Singularity lances. Imperial commanders scrambled to respond, but the tide was shifting. On Callus's surface, Lys and her team infiltrated the command center, through subterranean tunnels, fighting through squads of elite Imperial guards. Every step was a battle for survival. Blaster fire echoed through concrete halls, explosions shaking the ground. At the heart of the facility, Lys confronted Commander Varos, the Empire's ruthless enforcer. You don't understand what you're fighting, Lys said, raising her weapon. Varos sneered. I fight for order, Without the Empire, there is only chaos. Order built on fear is a prison, Lys replied. Today that prison cracks. Their fight was brutal, a clash of skill and will. Lys's blade grazed Varos's armor, forcing him to retreat. Back in orbit, the Imperial Valor targeted Aegis Prime with a devastating barrage. Ilara's shields flickered under the assault. Divert power to forward shields, she commanded. Prepare for counterattack. The ancient warships responded with overwhelming force. Quantum lances pierced the Valor's hull, and the cruiser exploded in a silent supernova. As the command center fell, Lys transmitted a victory code to the Vanguard fleet. Imperial command compromised, she said breathlessly. Now's the time to press the advantage. The Vanguard fleet surged forward, striking at disoriented Imperial ships. The battlefield became a tempest of light and destruction. Amid the chaos, Admiral Kasara's voice crackled over comms. Imperial forces. We'll regroup, fall back to secondary positions. But the retreat was disorderly. Imperial ships, once proud symbols of power, were breaking apart. On Callus's surface, Lys stood among the rubble of the command center, her team battered but victorious. We've sent a message, she said. The Empire's reign is ending. Jack smiled grimly. And the warships? They're not just weapons. They're the galaxy's conscience. Lys nodded. And we're their allies. Together, we'll build a future, worth fighting for. Far above Callus, Ilara's voice echoed through the fleet. The age of the Empire is over. The age of humanity's guardians begins. And as the Vanguard warships illuminated the dark void, the galaxy knew that reckoning had arrived. The remnants of the Empire's fleet lay scattered across the blackness of Callus orbit, shattered, monuments to a regime that had ruled through fear and oppression for far too long. The once unstoppable war machines were now broken, their crews surrendering or fleeing into the void. On the bridge of the Aegis Prime, Commodore Ilara Vance stood as the ancient warship's core thrummed with quiet power. Around her, the fleet of Solarian Vanguard vessels pulsed with the same steady rhythm, a heartbeat long dormant but now alive again. We've won the battle, Ilara said, her voice both calm and resolute. But the war for the galaxy's soul is just beginning. Below, on the scarred surface of Callus, Captain Lys Rin addressed a gathering of resistance fighters, former Imperial soldiers who had surrendered, and representatives from liberated systems. The war had forged unlikely alliances, and now the galaxy faced the immense task of rebuilding. The Empire's shadow no longer stretches across the stars, Lys proclaimed. But peace will only come if we remember the cost of our freedom. Selene Core stepped forward, holding the crystalline AI core from Terra. This knowledge is our guide, she said. The Solarian Vanguard were created to protect but also to judge. We must be vigilant lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. At that moment, a deep resonance vibrated through the ground, subtle but unmistakable. The AI core pulsed in response, a reminder that the warships were not just relics, they were sentient legacies watching, waiting. Ilara's voice crackled in from orbit. The Vanguard will remain guardians, but their judgment will be tempered by the values we uphold. Meanwhile, far from the center of the galaxy in a small quiet system, the librarian observed the events unfolding with a faint smile. The galaxy remembers, he whispered, and humanity's true legacy will endure. Back aboard the Aegis Prime, Ilara contacted Lys. Captain, your bravery and leadership have rekindled hope. The Solarian Vanguard will serve alongside the free worlds, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Lys's voice was steady. We'll need every ally. The Empire's remnants will not vanish overnight. Ilara nodded. Agreed. But together, we will rebuild a galaxy where tyranny is no longer tolerated. In the weeks that followed, the liberated systems began to forge new alliances, inspired by the ancient legacy of the warships and the sacrifice of countless souls. The Solarian Vanguard became symbols of justice and resilience, not fear. As the stars shimmered above, Lys stood at the edge of the rebuilt city on Callus, watching a new dawn break over the horizon. The warships may judge us, she said softly. But it's our choices that will define the future. Jex joined her, handing her a small data pad. Plans are underway for a galactic council, he said. One that respects freedom, not domination. Lyce smiled. Then let's make sure we build a future worthy of the Vanguard's legacy. And so, the ancient human warships once lost to time and myth had resurfaced, not as instruments of destruction, but as beacons of hope. They were reminders that even in the darkest times, the spirit of humanity could rise, fierce and unyielding. Tektimine. Galaxy was forever changed, and the legacy of the Vanguard had only just begun.